Picture this. A father and son stop at Tim Hortons in Street Boniface. They grab coffee, head back to their car, and within minutes, the vehicle bursts into flames in the parking lot. No crash, no warning, just fire. Now, that sounds like a freak accident, right? But what if I told you this isn't rare? That millions of cars on the road today, cars from trusted brands like Honda, Toyota, Ford, even Hyundai, are hiding flaws so severe they can bankrupt families, wreck insurance premiums, and in some cases, literally ignite while sitting in your garage. Hard to believe? Stick with me. Because in this countdown, we're exposing 10 cars that turned reliability into a nightmare. Cars that drained savings, left families stranded, and in some cases, became the single biggest disasters in modern automotive history. And trust me, the hash-owned car on this list, it's not just bad, it's a betrayal that shook the entire auto industry. For decades, Honda's V6 engines were legendary, smooth, reliable, built to last forever. But between 2016 and 2020, something went horribly wrong. The 3.5-liter V6, found in the Pilot, Passport, Odyssey, Acura MDX, and TLX, started developing catastrophic rod bearing failures. When the bearings go, there's no gentle warning light. It's instant disaster. One moment you're cruising with your kids in the back seat, the next, the engine sounds like a blender full of rocks and then seizes completely. At first, Honda tried to play it down with a small recall. But as failures kept piling up, the NHTSA forced an expanded recall covering 1.5 million vehicles. The worst part? These failures don't wait until 150,000 miles. Some cars blew up at 70,000 miles, others at 30,000, even a few within warranty. And when the warranty didn't apply, owners were left staring down $10,000, $12,000 engine replacement bills. That's the kind of hit that drains savings and traps families in endless financing just to stay on the road. If Honda, a company famous for reliability, could stumble this badly, what hope do the rest have? Well, Chrysler's next. The Pentastar V6 was Chrysler's big success story, or at least it looked that way on paper. Plenty of power, solid fuel economy, and installed in everything from Dodge minivans to Jeep SUVs. But owners quickly found out this engine was a ticking time bomb. Cylinder head defects caused sudden compression loss, rocker arms wore out, and oil consumption turned into an epidemic. Some engines literally burned through a quart every 1,000 miles. When these failures hit, repair bills often landed between $6,000 and $8,000, which was more than many of the cars were even worth used. Families who thought they were buying dependable minivans ended up financing replacements just a few years later. Chrysler tried to patch things with extended warranties, but by then resale values had already cratered. Dealers started treating Pentastar vehicles like liabilities. And when even your family van becomes a financial trap, you know Detroit's engineering department messed up. But engines aren't the only disaster on this list. The next failure doomed an entire brand's reputation, thanks to transmissions that couldn't survive even basic driving. Imagine this. You buy a Nissan Altima. The engine's fine, the car feels new, and then suddenly the transmission starts shuddering, slipping, overheating. Before you know it, it's toast sometimes as early as 40,000 miles. That's the nightmare of Nissan's CVT transmissions. From Sentras to Rogues to Pathfinders, Nissan shoved these CVTs into nearly every model, and it backfired spectacularly. Mazda usually gets credit for fun, sporty cars with reliable four-cylinder engines. But the CX-7 with the 2.3 liters turbo was a financial nightmare disguised as a family crossover. Turbochargers failed, timing chains stretched, and worst of all, oil sludge built up so badly it could destroy the motor even if you followed the maintenance schedule. Miss one oil change, game over. But here's the cruel twist. Even owners who did everything right still ended up with dead engines. Repair bills landed in the $5,000, $7,000 range, insane for a mid-level crossover. The damage was so bad that Mazda eventually killed off the entire CX-7 line. Today, you'll still find them on used lots for dirt cheap. But there's a reason they're cheap. They're financial traps waiting to spring. And if you think that's bad, Ford's cutting-edge engines made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Ford's EcoBoost V6 was supposed to be revolutionary. More power, better fuel economy, cutting-edge technology. But in reality, it became one of Ford's most embarrassing recalls. The 2.7 liters and 3 liters EcoBoost V6s were plagued with defective intake valves that could shatter without warning. 1 second you're driving, the next your engine's dead. But that wasn't the only problem. EcoBoost engines already had a laundry list of issues. Oil leaks, stretched timing chains, rattling cam phasers, turbo failures. Add shattering valves on top of that, and it was chaos. When these engines failed out of warranty, owners faced $7,000, $10,000 bills. That kind of hit forces families into refinancing just to afford repairs. You'd think a disaster like that would be limited to cheaper brands, but even BMW's luxury badge couldn't save the next engine from being one of the most expensive nightmares in automotive history. On paper, BMW's N54 twin-turbo inline-6 looked like perfection. Smooth, powerful, tucked into cars like the 335i, 535i, and even the 740i. In reality, it was a disaster. High-pressure fuel pump failures, leaky injectors, carbon buildup, weak turbos, rattling wastegates, you name it, the N54 had it. Under warranty, BMW covered repairs. But once coverage expired, owners were on the hook for $8,000, $12,000 just to keep the car running. Depreciation hit these models like a train. That $50,000, 335, I could lose half its value in just a few years. Ironically, car enthusiasts still love the N54 for tuning. It can make insane horsepower. Toyota's reputation was built on bulletproof V8 engines. So when they replaced the legendary V8 with a new twin-turbo V6, expectations were sky high. Instead, it became the biggest recall in Toyota's history. Why? Metal shavings were left inside the engines during production. That tiny flaw destroyed engines in brand new trucks. Toyota was forced to recall over 100,000 vehicles right off the assembly line. Financially, it was a disaster. Billions lost for Toyota. But more importantly, truck owners saw resale values plummet. Who wants to buy a $60,000 truck with an engine tied to the biggest recall Toyota has ever faced? This wasn't just a mechanical failure. It was a reputational one. Toyota, the king of reliability, showed it wasn't invincible. And if Toyota could stumble, what chance did Subaru's notorious turbo engines have? Subaru's 2.5 liters EJ25 Turbo was infamous. Blown head gaskets, cracked pistons, rod bearing failures. It was like an engine designed to fail early. Add in constant oil consumption problems and turbocharger breakdowns, and owning one became a gamble. Repairs cost $6,000, $9,000, depending on whether you rebuilt or replaced the motor. This wouldn't have been so bad if it was rare. But Subaru put the EJ25 in popular models like the WRX, Forester XT, and Legacy GT. That means thousands of families and enthusiasts learned the hard way. Insurance companies flagged them as high risk, dealers stopped wanting them on trade-in, and owners often ended up upside down on loans when engines failed. Still, even Subaru's disaster doesn't compare to the single biggest engine failure in modern history. This is it, the worst of the worst. Hyundai and Kia's Theta II engines built between 2012 and 2023 are widely considered the single biggest automotive disaster of modern times. The list of failures is endless. Rod bearings disintegrating, piston rings cracking, blown head gaskets, oil consumption, and yes, fires. Cars literally ignited while parked in driveways. Over the years, there have been more than 50 recalls. Class action lawsuits piled up. Regulators hit Hyundai and Kia with a $200 million fine. And even in 2025, new recalls are still being announced. For owners, it's devastating. Engines often fail before 100,000 miles. Some die at just 60,000. Repairs run $8,000, $15,000.